What's up, everybody, and welcome to the next episode of the D Irish Fan Podcast. My name is Danny, where I'm not an Irish fan. I am D Irish Fan. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I'm going to get into a couple of things that are relevant to Notre Dame football today. There's not a lot of news breaking. There's not a lot of things going on. This football season's over, and there's really only two things to talk about. Do a little recap on the season, and then turn the page to 2026. That's what I'm going to talk about today. Plus a smidgen of breaking news, at least as it pertains to this podcast, with the College Football Playoff Committee coming back and telling everybody what it's going to stick with 12 teams. They're not going to expand to 16. But as long as Notre Dame is in the top 12, they are insured a guaranteed at-large bid. I'm going to talk about that. Before I do, please like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the notification bell so that every single time your boy posts an episode, you can come back here and listen to me bloviate, talk, complain, and predict about Notre Dame football in the present, in the future, 30,000-foot view, how our program is doing, where we're going, and everything in between. I know I really appreciate everyone that is listening to the podcast. It is little by little smaller, it's growing. My podcast is growing a little bit, and I really appreciate that. So thank you for coming back and listening. Hey, I'm getting my first trolls too. So that's always a good thing when you're getting the hate back. That usually means you're saying some of the right things and doing the right thing. So every single post, every single person viewing this channel, whether it's good or bad, is good. So I appreciate that. Anyway, enough of that. College football season's over. It's been a week. Today, I'm recording this on Sunday. And it is very cold outside. Indiana right now is going through what would be a blizzard for Indy. About 8 inches of snow. The rest of the country in the south is going through ice and blizzard conditions. And it's just, hey, there's not a better time to get down here in the basement and record an episode. So that's what I'm doing right now. And Indiana is the 2025 or 2026 national champions. And I can't even begin to tell you how weird this is. I can't even begin to tell you what what that means for the sport of college football and how that's relevant for Notre Dame. First thing, I said in my last podcast, when I predicted, my final score prediction, by the way, it was 28-17. My Indiana would win. The final score was 27-21. A little close. I'm going to pat myself on the back for that one. And in true Indiana form, that they scored at the in the fourth quarter to put the game out of reach, and held and made Miami and Carson Beck make some mistakes. And so, hey, I was spot on. I was right on that. So that's what's up. Anyway, IU is the national champion now, and if you are 35 years or older, you know how it's crazy. This football program, the IU football, they're a basketball school. They didn't care about football for its entire existence. Even through the 2000s and 2015s, the NIL era, it's just, they decided to care about football for the last 10 seconds, and they've already won a Heisman Trophy and a national championship, something that Notre Dame has been pursuing for 37 seasons. And that's bittersweet for me. I've shared before that I've got some Indiana ties. I've got a lot of friends and family that have gone to IU. I myself have spent a lot of time at IU. I went to IUPUI here in Indy. I didn't finish, but I find myself, I'm a kindred spirit to Indiana University. I went to their last Final Four in 2002 when they lost to Maryland in the national championship game. I'm an IU basketball fan. And of course, I root for them in football, when they're not playing Notre Dame. And I'm not a huge fan of Cignetti, although he's a great coach. His kind of, I'm gonna try and be like Nick Saban attitude, where he's just got this, he's just smug and he's never smiling and complains about everything, and even if they're up 70-0. It's just, whatever. It's when you win, you can do whatever you want as a coach. You can do whatever you want, you can say whatever you want when you're winning, and it's totally fine. Other than that, of course, I have a lot of ties to Indiana. I do love Indiana University. I live in Indiana, so I wouldn't consider myself a fan, at least of the football program, but I am glad, much more glad, that they won instead of Miami. That would have just been an insufferable offseason because they're one of the worst fan bases, not because of their size and how great their brand is, and a school like Ohio State, for example, who has one of the most toxic fan bases in college football. Sorry, Chad, I love you. It's not like that. They're the kind of fan base that will talk. They will talk crap, no matter how good or bad their team is. They will only show up when their team is good, and even when they are good. I've said this before. Look at the stands and look how many people are in the stands when they're gonna play for a national championship. They're the most fair weather fans. The U, I would care about. It's all about the U. Michael Irvin and all these idiots who get on and 30 for 30s on ESPN. It's just I just can't stand that university. They're a fraud. Also, they're supposed to be a high academic institution, and they don't care about academics when it comes to their student athletes, and they never have. So I can't stand that institution. I can't stand Miami. I'm so glad IU won, and we can put that to bed. And that's what I want to do mainly on this podcast is kind of turn the page on the 2025-2026 season. IU won the national title. It sucked that we got held out of the playoff, but it is what it is. We should have beat Miami, or we should have beat Miami or Texas A&M, and we didn't. So there's a lot that's been talked about, and that's a lot asked and answered questions. And moving on, I have my opinions on Notre Dame in the future, where I see the program going, where I see the direction of college football going. And I'll tell you what, my initial thoughts, I don't think it's a bad thing that teams like Indiana can win a national championship. It brings more parity to the sport that in the 2000s and 2010s created a scenario, especially during the 14 playoff era, where only 4 teams not just were competing, but could win year in and year out. What I mean by that is, and you hear a lot of analysts say, well, there's only about 4 or 5 teams every single year that can win a national championship. Well, what the 2010s era did, the Alabama Nick Saban era, I'm calling it, what it did was year in and year out in the 80s, 90s, and in every era of college football, yeah, it was only 4 or 5 teams, but it was 4 or 5 different teams. One year it was probably, let's take the 90s for example. One year is maybe Nebraska, Michigan, Ohio State, and Miami. And then the next year was another set of 4 teams where it was Florida and Ohio State and Miami and Colorado. And then the next year, there was only 4 or 5 teams per year capable of winning a national championship, but that set of 4 or 5 teams rotated year to year. And you had your dynasties. The Nebraska dynasty of the 90s. The only thing that can come close to the Nick Saban era, they were dominant. They were a dominant dynasty, and you had the dynasty of the Miami Hurricanes in the 80s, and you had Notre Dame had their run as well. And then the 2000s, you saw USC have a dynasty. Oklahoma had a nice run there. And then the Nick Saban era comes, and it's Alabama pretty much every other year. What that created, it was only 4 or 5 teams every single year, but it was the same 4 or 5 teams every single year. From 2009, as pretty much, up until the last two or 3 seasons, one of 4 or 5 teams was winning the national championship. Those teams are Alabama, Georgia, Clemson, Ohio State, and LSU. Yes, I'm fully aware that Auburn has a national title in there, I think in 2010. Florida State has a national title in there, and I think the 2013 season. So I'm fully aware that a couple other schools did it. But year in and year out, in that time period, it was the same 4 teams winning national championships. The same 4. And it was mostly the same 4 in every single iteration of the college football playoff. Those previous 4 aforementioned teams. This, I said it a couple podcasts ago, this was the first year since 2000, since the college football playoff was formed in 2014. This is the first year that one of those previous four, Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, and Clemson, that one of those previous four was not in the Final Four of the college football playoff. We've had a 12-team iteration for 2 seasons, but even last year, you had Ohio State win the national championship. One of those 4 teams, if not a couple of them, were in every single iteration of the Final Four of the college football playoff since its formation in 2014. And that chain is now broken. I'll also add that most of the 5 stars, all the 5 stars in recruiting from whatever site you want to pick, were picking those same schools. It's no shock or coincidence to me that that era of college football was dominated by those 4 schools, not just in winning on the field, but on the recruiting stage as well. The NIL era has brought parity, for better or for worse, whatever you want to call it, or however you want to think about it. The NIL era has brought parity to college football. I can't sit here and say that that's a bad thing. And I also can't sit here and say that Notre Dame can't profit from that. And we have seen from this transfer portal era, or at least this transfer portal season, that we have profited greatly from it. It's something that I just said, we can turn the page on the 2025-2026 season to next season, the 2026-2027 season, and look at it with great hope. And I'm going to go through this roster. I'm going to go through the transfer portal gets that we have, the guys that signed and are going to play for Notre Dame next year. I'm going to have podcasts in the offseason leading up to the season about those things, and talking about those players, going position group by position group, and talking about it. And I'm really excited. I'm really, really excited to be able to look at this Notre Dame football team and look at what college football has been able to produce, or rather what Notre Dame has been able to produce because of some of the new things that college football has created. IU winning the national championship is just the tip of the iceberg of something that you can start seeing now being a very competitive thing. And schools are going to have to stay on those trails, on the recruiting trails, on the transfer portal trails. It's not a train that you're going to be able to get off of. You're going to have to continuously do it over and over again every single season. If your coach is good, he's going to be in the conversation for every single college football program and NFL franchise to get hired if they fire their coach. Every single year, Marcus Freeman will be in those conversations, and we want him to be, because we want him to be good. I hope that he stays with Notre Dame for another couple of years and primarily wins a national championship. If he wins a national championship, he can do whatever he wants. I don't care. I'll make that trade. Go wherever you want, do whatever you want, win a national title, and then do whatever you want. I'm fine. Totally fine, because I won a national title before I die. So, Indiana won the national title. It's a good thing as of right now. It's helping Notre Dame compete. And I can't say that parity in college football is a bad thing. How that pertains to Notre Dame going forward in the future and the 2026 season, I just talked about the rule change that college football, well, it wasn't necessarily a rule change, but the ruling that came down, they were going to expand the playoffs to 16, and there are talks of expanding it to as many as 24. I never thought that was going to happen, because what you have to do is get rid of the conference title games, and there's no way you're going to have to pry the conference title games away from their cold dead fingers, especially the SEC. And if you're an SEC fan listening to this, you completely agree with me. I keep hearing people in the Notre Dame media sphere and others talking about how these conference title games really don't matter anymore, and they don't. They don't. I mean, you cannot tell me that they matter if a team loses and gets crushed in the title game. That losing like that shouldn't matter and it shouldn't affect their standing. Well, then why are you playing this stupid game to begin with? But anyway, they want the conference title games because it's added revenue. Why would you say no to revenue unless you're going to be compensated for it? And the CFP and NCAA isn't going to just magically come up with all this money to give the conferences for not playing the games. So of course they didn't expand. Of course it's not going to go to 24 or 16. At least not in my lifetime. I see the CFP going towards a more NFL style of a playoff. If you want to go to the playoff, you got to win a division or a conference, or go or get some kind of wild card or whatever. And which is ultimately why I think Notre Dame will join a conference. Is that reason? But again, I've already talked about that. Asked and answered podcast for another day. But it's going to stay at 12. The CFP is staying at 12. This is kind of the quote unquote breaking news that I'm talking about today. Why it's good for Notre Dame is because we are guaranteed an at-large bid if we are in the final top 12. So, for example, this previous season, we were ranked 10th. No, sorry, we were ranked 11th in the CFP and got bumped out for James Madison and Tulane for being those teams. That was the rule essentially the last couple of years, that if the highest ranked group of 5 team could compete for a national title. Why were there 2? I don't know. I think it was a middle finger to Notre Dame. Personally, I've talked about that before. It was the CFP's way of flexing on Notre Dame, saying, "No, you're not in the conference. Fine, you're not going to be in the playoff." I think that's what it was. And more to that, I think that I don't trust the committee at all with putting Notre Dame, giving us this little caveat of being in the top 12, you get an automatic bid. Well, what's to stop them from putting us at 13th just because they want to? I mean, do I think they will? I don't know, but I certainly don't trust them. Do you? Have they given us any reason to say, even if Notre Dame goes undefeated, let's say they're undefeated next year, they win every single game, and Miami and BYU end up being top 15 teams, and those are Notre Dame's 2 top 15 wins, and maybe an SMU is ranked, and maybe one other team, I don't know. But those are our wins, and we're 12-0, and somewhere within the top 5. If we're undefeated, we'll, quote unquote, technically we should be somewhere in the top 5. Obviously depends on what other teams do, how many undefeated teams there are, how many one-loss teams there are. This year, the whole topic of conversation was head-to-head. What's to stop the CFP and ESPN from making the whole topic of conversation next year about strength of schedule? And because Notre Dame is not going to have a very strong strength of schedule, it's not the worst strength of schedule in the country. Certainly not. It's not the best either. But it's already it's already a topic of conversation. A lot of these sites are putting up their way too early top 25s. And most people, Joe Klatt, I think, had Notre Dame 5. ESPN has Notre Dame at number 3. I think On3 has Notre Dame at number 4. So I think Yahoo Sports put their out. They have Notre Dame at number 9. So somewhere within that 3 to 9 range, that will probably be Notre Dame, with barring some kind of spring or fall camp major injury by C.J. Carr, which is probably the only thing that would drop Notre Dame down in rankings, preseason rankings. Barring that, Notre Dame will be in the top 10 in the preseason rankings. And if they go undefeated, stands to reason, there's no reason why they should move down, right? But what is to stop the CFP from going, well, you're not in the conference. We don't care. You're 13th. Bye-bye. They did it to us this year. Again, it's probably sour grapes. It's probably, I'm probably wearing a tinfoil hat a little bit too much. And it would certainly expose them. It would definitely expose them, the agenda. So do I think that's going to happen? No, I don't. But I don't trust them, and it certainly could. It's on the table. Let's just put it that way. But as it sits and as it stands, all we have to be is in the top 12. This season, this roster is going to be loaded. We are absolutely loaded. I don't care what anybody says. If you're a Notre Dame football fan, you want to know how good Notre Dame is going to be next year, you need to go to the sites, to the Notre Dame Media Sphere that actually reports, and you do not, I repeat, do not go to guys like Stephen A. Smith and Paul Feinbaum and ESPN. Do not listen to them. They do not care about being right. They do not care about being accurate. They do not care about giving out valid, critical information. They only care about clicks and how many people they can piss off so that people will watch them talk about whatever it is that they're talking about. That's all they care about. That is all they care about, period, and end of discussion. If you want to know how good Notre Dame is going to be, come back here. Go to Irish Breakdown. Go to Irish Illustrated. Go to blueandgold.com, because they're going to have a lot to say about the roster, a lot of things that I'm not going to be able to tell you because they have insights in the program. But if you want a fan's perspective, if you want a pulse on the Notre Dame lifeblood, you come here. You come listen to me. I'm telling you right now, this is the most talented roster that we have had since perhaps 2006. That year, Notre Dame, Brady Quinn, if you guys remember, Brady Quinn was the front runner to win the Heisman Trophy. I think SI had us at a preseason number 1. Everyone, the Associated Press and the coaches poll had us at preseason number 2. That's the highest we've been ranked preseason since the Lou Holtz era. Was that 1 year? Yes, I'm fully aware that in 2012 we were ranked number 1 at the end of the season, but I'm talking about preseason, and that was the highest. That was the highest we've been ranked. The previous high, I believe, was number 5. Marcus Freeman has had 2 teams in preseason number 5, and I think this year will be the same, 5 or 4 or 5. And we'll actually have a roster, quality of roster capable of winning a national championship. Some of those other rosters weren't capable of it. This one is. When I say we are deep, we are talented, and we are experienced, this is the roster with the most of the three of that combination that I have seen in my lifetime. Even that 2006 team, of course, we know what happened. They go 10-3 and they get annihilated by LSU and Jamarcus Russell in the 2007 Sugar Bowl, I believe it was. And that team was obviously, that team was not a national title contending winning team because of the defense was so bad. And we're not going to be, we don't have those kinds of holes this year. We're going to have an offense finally capable of complementing the defense. We're going to have a defense finally capable of complementing the offense. We're going to have special teams. We better have special teams that'll make most of the field goals and every single one of the extra points. I want to stress that, because for some reason we're terrible at that this year. But we went out, we got a proven kicker, Spencer Porath. And so special teams also should be a very, very complementary to our offense and our defense. We are loaded this year. We are absolutely loaded. I'm going to go into it. I'm going to go through it, and I can't wait to do that. So what I am doing for now, I'm tabling the conference affiliation talk. I'm going to table what I believe the CFP is going to do. And I'm going to table the tinfoil hat theories that I might have. And I'm going to look forward and completely dedicate my football vision to this 2026 football team, what I think it can be. And I'm really, really excited. I think you guys should be too. I don't care what ESPN's going to say about them. I don't care. I can't wait to see them on the field. And we're not going to see that, unfortunately, until they take the field on September 6th against Wisconsin at Lambeau Field. That's going to be a really cool experience. I'm going to try and go. I don't know. We'll see if the money and things work out for that. But I'm really, really excited. I cannot wait to share this roster with you, to go through it line by line, to really kind of scrutinize it, something that I've never done on this podcast before. And I'm really, really excited. So 2025, 2026, goodbye. Hello, 2026, 2027. Here come the Irish. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. That's gonna be it for today's show. Again, please like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the notification bell. I love you guys. God bless, and go Irish.